Peace and welcome to Earth Crowns. Today I'm going to be doing an instructional tutorial, so I will go over a crown that I recently made. I'm trying to think of the name. I don't quite have it yet, but I was thinking something along the lines like just like a daisy crown. And the reason is because you'll see the scarf later on. The scarf has like a daisy pattern on it, and so that's why, I'm just gonna go with daisy crown. And I like to name crowns, like a lot of it is based on just like natural phenomenons, or just things that you would find in nature, and how that just ends up being encapsulated in my head. So I was having, as I told you in some videos in the past, I get a lot of backlash, especially from the person that is supposed to support me the most, and that is my mother. And, she goes from, oh, that looks horrible, pero que lo que tú tienes puesto, muchacha? And she calls it a babonuco. She says, y ese babonuco, and she calls me la machanta. And when I started to look for these words, it was the first time that I've ever heard of that. I was like, what is she calling me? And it turns out that the machantas and the babonuco, what it literally is this thing that you place on your head, and it's for working women in rural areas of the Caribbean and of, what people deem as the third world. You see women in Africa wearing this. Native Americans have a sort of their own version of the babonuco, but it's kind of like a head wrap, a support head wrap that you can carry, buckets. It could be your shopping and everything like that. And a machanta, I guess, is like the female the female version of that, of a woman walking with that head wrap, and then with with whatever she's carrying with it. So looking at all these things, you have to know the development of race and ethnicity in the Dominican Republic in order to understand where my mother is coming from with these like negative comments towards me. Actually, the Dominican Republic and Dominican women here in the States, they're famous because of our salons. We are pros at straightening hair, to the extent that even other black women from other cultural backgrounds get their hair done with Dominican women, and they won't get it done with anything else. It's very interesting. I wonder how, if there's any research out there that can really talk about how Dominicans have helped in quotations, or have helped further the conking the experience of the so-called African American here in the United States. Because it's crazy, in the sense of what Dominican women have been able to show this society in terms of their processes of doing hair. One of my favorite books that I like to reference on this specific research in Dominican salons is Gineta Candelario's book entitled Black Behind the Ears. Now, of course, it's not only about the Dominican salons, although the bulk of the research is on Dominican salons, because she's interested in showing how the black body expresses itself through the Dominican experience, through the Dominican context. And so looking at her research, she goes very in depth into explaining more. And she's not the only person that has done extensive research on this. Silvio Torres-Saillant has written extensively about, anti-blackness and anti-Haitian sentiment within Dominicans in the island. And to understand the development of race and ethnicity in the Dominican Republic, we have to look at everything that has happened. Now, I won't go into detail, but I will just kind of like bullet point some key points. The first point is how foreign narratives about Dominicans by white men coming into the island to not only explore it, but see the possibility of, because this is at the time where the U.S. empire is really taking hold of Latin America, to the extent that it becomes, it's very common knowledge that Latin America was the U.S.'s backyard. You have the Monroe Doctrine, you have the Roosevelt Corollary, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but these things solidified the U.S.'s hold over Latin America very much in the same way as you had Europe have hold of Africa. And the same aspect in pillage, in murder, in genocide, in oppression happened in Latin America just as much as it happened in Africa prior to this, right? And so with the Dominican context, right, you have Haitians, they had a black consciousness. It was the first successful black colonial revolution. This was before imperialism. And so obviously, think about this, right? They want to punish the Haitians. They want to punish them economically. They want to isolate them. And if you look at Haiti's trajectory, Haiti's history, Haiti has been deliberately isolated by the world powers to the extent where it is one of the poorest, right? I believe Honduras is number one on the list. It might have changed. These things are always changing. But Haiti is there as one of the poorest countries in Latin America. Now, of course, how do you help? How do you continue this punishment on Haiti? Well, it makes total sense. Why don't we use the other side of the island who sees themselves as different, right? But the Dominicans didn't start to view themselves as different unless there was a process of mental conditioning, mental brainwashing, and mental oppression that went on prior to this consciousness that Dominican developed as seeing themselves as the whites of the island. So, you know, a key thing is this, what Jineta details as these narratives of these men, of these white men coming into the island and writing, look, this is why we need to invest in this side of the island. You know, the Dominicans are whiter, they're not backwards, you know, and of course they have like these racist connotations toward the Haitians, and then Dominicans all of a sudden become like this better people, right? And of course these narratives were shared, these narratives were passed down to the people in the DR. And then, you know, fast forwarding into history, then you get the famous, you know, dictator Trujillo, who was a very close friend of the dictator in Cuba, who was Batista, right? And if we study Cuban history, we know about Batista. And Trujillo was just as evil, as just as a bastard as Batista was. I would say we had to really give degrees of measurements that Trujillo was literally, you know, worse. And you know, Trujillo, actually a man of Haitian blood himself, had like there was a massacre, you know, that occurred where he killed thousands and thousands of Haitians. He ordered the Dominican military to do this. And of course, you know, you have, these are not the Dominican people. We have to think these is not the Dominican people doing this. This is the government. This is U.S. foreign interests in the island doing all this to further create that confusion and that hate that Dominicans end up internalizing later against the Haitians. Now, not all Dominicans feel this way, of course, right? They haven't gotten to all of the population. And then, of course, the worst of them all in this bullet point thing is Balaguer. And Balaguer was really the right-hand man in the Trujillo regime. He wrote his speeches. He did basically everything. And this is why he later on becomes that and has power over the, and is part of the Partido Cristiano Dominicano. And Balaguer was crazy. Like, he changed the history books. So that's why when you hear Dominicans say, yo soy indio claro, yo soy indio oscuro, yo una jabá, all these different terms are all terms that, you know, describe different forms of phenotypes, but they're being used because nobody wants to say that they are indeed black. But we are varying degrees of that black, blue-black phenotype. So, you know, you have Balaguer doing all this, and of course, El Museo del Hombre Dominicano played a big role into this. And now, you know, I will leave you just with those bullet points that I made, because, you know, now that we have this ethnic cleansing going on in the Dominican Republic, it's really bothersome when we hear other black people condemning Dominicans for these acts, when in reality they've been conditioned to think this way. They're acting other than themselves because they don't have the right knowledge of self. It was changed. And so, you know, when I hear people talking crap about Dominicans, please do the research. And this is why, yeah, I get mad at my mother when she starts with her racist remarks that I look like a machanta, that I have a babonuco, but I know where that is rooted. And the more I just continue to educate her, even if she doesn't get it, and my daughter's there to hear it, she's the one that's gonna get it. And so, you know, when I explain to her the true history, that, you know, what you're telling me is rooted in anti-Haitianism, because there are Dominican women that head wrap, but it's been erased from the history as well, because the salons just want you to exert your hair all the time, right? This straight hair, which is also black hair, but straight hair becomes the standard of beauty because it's the white woman that rocks it, not that dark brown skin Native American or that yellow seed Asian girl that has the straight hair too. So, you know, I'm gonna leave you with that. Now, I'm gonna go into the wrap, and so it's called the daisy crown. I'm gonna go and show you how to make the daisy crown. So to make this wrap, this crown, I am going to be using 3 scarves. The first scarf is not really necessary. It's just for added color and padding here in the top. But you know, it's optional. You can feel free to use it. I'm using a very light scarf. I'm using this one, so you can even kind of see through it too. So it's very light. It's not gonna add any bulkage to the top. So I'm also going to be using this rectangular scarf as well. The first one was also a rectangular scarf. And the star of the crown is going to be this daisy patterned rectangular scarf. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to place the dark blue scarf first. And again, this is not gonna add any extra bulkage. It's just for the color effect, which happens to go with the color on the daisy pattern scarf. So I'm putting it on, and I'm gonna make sure that the ends are equal in length. Okay, and just there's any, you want to have it as neat as possible in the front. So I'm gonna tie this one. This one's gonna be tied in the back. Okay. And I am going to okay, so it's nice and neat. Okay. And I'm just gonna bring the tails to the top. It doesn't matter how you place them. You can fold them nice or not. It doesn't matter. Okay, and I'm gonna bring the other one to the top. Okay, and now I'm gonna be using the dark yellow rectangular scarf, and I'm actually using it folded. I'm not opening it up at all. And I gave it an extra fold. So I folded it inward twice. And I'm gonna be placing it diagonally. I kind of want it as thin as possible. Okay. And the ends have to be equal in length as well. And they are. I just measured them. And I will also tie this one in the back. And any extra bulk from the dark blue scarf, it doesn't matter. Okay, just try to work with it. Okay, so that's how I want it, in a diagonal line there. All right, so now I have the daisy pattern scarf, and this is a pretty long rectangular scarf. So what I'm actually doing, right, is actually folded. I folded it in half. Not only that, after I fold it in half, I am going to fold it just a little bit more, and I'll show you what I did. See, I folded it just inward a little bit more because it's that big. And also because I'm going to be placing it not in the front, but I'm going to be placing it at about here. Okay, right where the yellow kind of cuts off. Okay, so let me make sure that the ends are equal in length, and they are. Okay, and I'm just gonna move it back a little bit. This one I am not folding, okay? I'm just bringing it up. I have my 4 tails here, 2 yellow and 2 of the main scarf. And the first thing I will do is I am going to use the floral scarf on my left side, your right side, and I'm just gonna bring it up and spread it out as neatly as possible. And you can do some like small folds at the top there to kind of get it neater and have the pattern really show. And now I'm tucking it in. Okay, and I'm just bringing it to the front. And now I have this yellow one here. I'm gonna leave it here for now. And now what I will do is I am going to bring up this yellow one in a diagonal manner, okay? And I'm kind of just gonna leave it hanging here just a tiny bit for a little bit. And I'm gonna use now this one, on my right side, and I'm also gonna bring this one up. Okay, and it's gonna be like semi-diagonal, but not really. I'm trying to bring it a little bit more sideways or horizontally, right, than I would diagonal. And using the top, I'm just going to loop it, right? And using this scarf, wait, you know what? I'm just gonna let these hang out here for a while. And gonna bring this one up here. Okay, and the goal is to just get some yellow up here. Okay, so I kind of put this one up. I mean, before you start dealing with this side, you can actually just put that one up. Okay, that was a minor mistake of mine. Yeah, I should have just dealt with this one first. Okay, so I'm going to keep it here. Alright, and I am going to now bring that one up, and I'll just let it hang there. And now I'm just gonna bring this one kind of sideways, and using the same scarf I will loop it, kind of going outwards twice. And then I'm just going to tuck it in the back. And now what I'll do is I'll just work on spreading this out as much as possible. and rearranging everything a little bit. Okay. Okay, and just like the loop, I'm gonna move it a little bit more to spread this out. Okay. Great. And just moving the yellow here. Okay. And a little more inward. Okay. So I'm gonna use the mirror now to just check that everything is good. All right, so let me see now. Okay, so this side looks pretty good. Just gotta insert something in here. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, this side looks pretty good too. Okay, awesome. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish off the crown with these beautiful earrings. They were made by the artist Ramel Jasir, and they go great with the colors of the wrap. So I'm just gonna turn around one more time, and if you see any like diagonals in the back, at the back of the crown, that's the effect I was looking for. I want it to look as complex in terms of crossing as it is in the front. Okay, so I'm gonna turn around one more time. So there you have it. I hoped that it was clear and that I'm more about you seeing it. I don't explain it as well. But thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great day. Peace.